नमस्ते। शायद आप लोगों को मेरी बात थोड़ी सी कड़वी लगे, लेकिन ध्यान से सुनना। आपसे ज्यादा इज्जत है हमारे पास। पूछो कैसे? आपकी इज्जत एक बार गई तो गई। हम तो रोज रात को इज्जत बेचती है, साली खत्म ही नहीं होती।
Before starting the explanation, I want to make a small request. As we are very close to 1000 subscribers, I want each one of you to help us by subscribing to our channel. So this story is based on real life of Gangubai, a prostitute by profession, her struggles and contribution to the society of her time. The opening scene of the movie shows how a young girl is trapped in a dark matchstick box-like room by the owner of the brothel, Rashmi Bai. She has been tortured into the business but she refuses. A man is sent to force her but she refuses by skipping everything from food and water. Here Rashmi Bai calls Gangu Bai, also known as Alia Bhatt, for help. Alia Bhatt, who in turn talks to the girl, she started first by calming her down by offering her water and opening the windows of the dark room. She started with her story. The movie goes into the flashback as Gangu Bai narrates her past to the girl, how she always wanted to become an actress, and how her boyfriend Ramneek sold her to this brothel, how she learned the reality of the place, how she used to collect all the prostitute friends to a movie break which was unacceptable to the Shilemosi. Gangu is shown to be liberally spent on the people around her, how she was tortured and even abused violently by her client, who was also assisted by then by Sheila Musa. She was exploited with knives. The person who tried to assault Gangu Bai was a wanted person. She recovered from hospital and sought help from Karim Bhai, who was a principal mafia. The abuser was a man of Karim Bhai's gang. Next time when again that client appeared and offered extra price from Gangu Bai, then Bai sent him again purposely to Gangu Bai. Gangu Bai too agreed, since she had already left things to Karim Bhai by showing her wounds to him. Gangu's friend informed Karim Bhai. He killed his man who tortured Gangu by hitting him on his car. Next we see the demise of Sheila Musi after the Gangu and others decided to run the brothel by themselves, making Gangu the Gangu Bai. After becoming the Bai, she became the head and was exempted to serve clients. Her task was to manage the brothel and she did that quite differently. One scene of the movie that is quite heart-touching was the scene where Gangu Bai and women of the brothel were gathered and one of them asked Gangu to write a letter for her. There is a catch point that only Gangu was literate enough to write a letter over there. While writing the letter to the father of the girl, each one of them added one line after another. Each one of them had the same grief and shared the same fate. This depicted how each of them were somehow sold to the brothel and how they missed their loved ones badly. Next scene is back to present, where Gangu offers the girl two pills, one to die, one to live, and she chooses to die rather to become a prostitute. Gangu Bai chose to rescue her for her courage and spirit. Moving forward, we see how Gangu's life proceeded. She was introduced to Taylor's son, Afsan Razak. He was quite hesitant at first, and this caught the attention of Gangu Bai. She slowly tried to open him up. Afsan, who was deeply in love with Gangu Bai, took her to frequent long drives and spent time with her. They played games, talked in sign languages, and slowly fell in love with each other. It was a sweet time in the life of the Gangu. She was treated as a normal girl who could love and be loved by someone and not for her body. As the time went by, elections for Kamatipura approached. Fellow mates of Gangu Bai made her stand for elections for their sake. Gangu Bai was against Razia Bai, who was a rich, and thus Gangu went to Karim Bhai for help. Karim Bhai offered her money as help, but she preferred taking in the business of liquor. Karim Bhai was in charge of this business but was convinced by Gangu's pious intentions and he offered her for the business share and a car as a gift. The car became a new place for the new lovebirds to spend some time. Meanwhile, the politics of Razia Bai continued. Razia Bai tried to stop this liquor business by sending in police for a raid, but Gangu bribes the policeman to shut up. Another plot appeared in the movie when Razia Bai called for a rally. She came to a cafe and insulted Gangu Bai by pouring liquor in her food. Despite everything, Gangu Bai kept patience. Gangu Bai took her rally as a challenge and planned to project a film on the very same day of the rally. To Razia Bai's surprise, nobody appeared at her rally except Gangu Bai herself. Here, Razia Bai was still confident of winning the elections and again challenged Gangu. Gangu Bai always exercised and worked hard to increase her strength, both physically and mentally. She was winning the support of many people, but still lacked that deciding factor for elections. Razia Bai had been winning for years and Gangu Bai was a new one to this field. One day at Kamathipura, Gangu Bai saw Kusum's drugged daughter Roshni in the cage and felt the pain. Kusum was one of her fellow mates at the brothel who chose to keep her child conceived. She was vulnerable to this business and wanted to save her daughter from these devils. Thus, she used to drug her daughter to sleep in a cage. Gangu confronted Kusum about the matter. Gangu finally decided to get Roshni married to Razak. She chose to sacrifice her love because she was a prostitute. So Razak, being from a normal family, won't be able to convince his parents or society into marrying her. Secondly, nobody else would marry Roshni since she was the daughter of a prostitute. Also, this marriage would ensure her votes as this would have been first marriage in Kamathipura. This was a sort of social revolution for the rights of prostitute of Kamathipura. It became a task to convince Razak's parents and they agreed by seeing the dowry and the fact that Roshni herself was not a prostitute but only a daughter of one. As a result of this revolutionary marriage, Gangu Bai won the elections. She got her gold teeth embedded as promised to herself before elections.
खोलो
हाँ,
और थोड़ा खोलो
हाँ,
और थोड़ा
अब पूरा का पूरा चाइना मुंह में घुसाएगा क्या?
It proved to be a painful stunt. She had a golden smile then onwards. After all these years, she finally gathered courage and called her father to find out about his shocking death from her mother. Her mother was reluctant to talk to her. This scene shows how the profession is so despised that even the ones who are forced into this business are despised by their very own family members. She was extremely sad hearing about her father, but still celebrated Navratri for her new family, the Kamathipura family. After Navratri celebrations, Karim Bhai called Gangu as there were few people who wanted to remove Kamathipura and establish their own buildings. Those were capitalist people who were just raising moral issues to serve their profit charts. Gangu Bai had to serve many women, so first, she started with the enrollment of prostitute children to school and thereby meeting a reporter.
लिखो माँ का नाम गंगू बाई
और बाप बाप का नाम क्या लिखें?
माँ का नाम काफी नहीं है ना? चलो बाप का नाम देवानंद.
Who was influenced by Gangu Bai and published her photo on his magazine's cover page. In the meanwhile, Gangu's best friend was in a critical state due to pregnancy. Gangu did all she could. She prepared slepas for her, medicines for her, but in the end to lose Kamli. Her child was saved and Gangu took charge of the child. She gave Kamli a grand farewell along with everyone in her brothel. On the other side of the story, her magazine photo made a huge impact and so she was invited to represent her society. This was actually the work of the reporter who took a fancy to Gangu Bai and her way of life. She prepared her speech, which she tried to learn by heart. On the day of deliverance, she tore the paper in front of the huge crowd, sat on a chair, and started her heart-to-heart talk. She pointed out how education, medication, and basic to everyone and how biased a society is towards a society their own acts develop. How they bear all the social evils and claim to make a society a little less animalistic. She even pointed out the times since the society has been into existence, and it is not always by choice, but mostly by vulnerability and forced abuses that they choose to bear this fate. She pointed out how education can change their fate and make society a better place. Her speech won a huge appreciation, and thus the petition for demolishing Kamathipura became even more troublesome.
ठान लिया गंगू ने हमारे बच्चों को इनको शिक्षा का हक दिलाकर ही रहूंगी और समाज में इंसान की तरह जीने का हक मैं लेकर ही रहूंगी.
Even the chief minister offered her a visit and negotiated on the land of Kamathipura. She paid no heed to his words, rather symbolically scolded his worker for sharbat. She later met Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. At first, the Prime Minister was hesitant, but later, hearing Gangu Bai's story and intentions, he was impressed. She won his rose and the right to keep Kamathipura intact by formation of a committee. It was a fact that Sir Jawaharlal Nehru only gave roses for some special reasons only. It was her target and she won it. It was a huge celebration in Kamathipura. Her rally was spectacular. Even Razia Bai appreciated her from her rooftop. Every house of Kamathipura welcomed her. There was Razak with Roshni who was pregnant. and Gangubai gave them her blessings. Gangubai's contributions are still remembered in the roads of Kamathipura and brothels everywhere. She had a heart of gold. How a girl who wanted to become an actress became an inspiration for a movie. At last, Gangubai was not a godly human being, but she was also not a devil. Hope you loved this video. If yes, then please subscribe to our channel and complete 1000 subscribers count.